Erin White. I spent 15 years working for Visit Bloomington, Indiana, in a variety of roles, including convention sales and services, media relations, and marketing. I'm currently serving as a director of strategic development for Envisionit, where I work exclusively with destination clients. In 2024, I received my CDME, which is a Certified Destination Marketing Executive Credential from Destinations International. The program is the highest level of education you can receive in the destination marketing space, and I couldn't be more excited to bring that knowledge that I learned throughout my time in the program to my day-to-day at Envisionit.
And I'm Kirsten Bell. I used to work for Galena Country Tourism for 8 years in a variety of different roles, and I ended my time there as a marketing director. I now work with tourism clients at Envisionit, and I'm an account manager. The way that I got into the tourism industry was I studied hotel operations and management. And I thought that, it's so exciting and such a wonderful industry to be in hospitality, but then the hours got the better of me. I really thought that it would be, all exciting. So I decided, okay, maybe I should look for something else. And the tour operator that we worked with said, why don't you come work for us? And I thought, what do they do? So I just looked into it, and I actually ended up working with them for 9 years. Thoroughly enjoyed it, realized that there's so much more to learn about tourism than just in the hospitality trade. And I, after that, worked for Booking.com. Decided to go a little bit more techie side of things in tourism and thoroughly enjoyed that. And eventually I immigrated to the States in 2016. And I was like, what am I going to do now? I'm so used to selling South Africa, where I'm originally from. And I found myself in the little town of Galena in Illinois and found a DMO there. And I thought, well, that's all I know is tourism, so let me start there. So that's where I come from.
Oh, that's fantastic.
How about you, Erin?
Similar to you, I began my career early on in tourism. I had actually grown up with a friend whose mom served as the director of a convention and visitors bureau in my hometown. And oftentimes people are like, well, what even is a convention and visitors bureau? And that's a fantastic question that I didn't know the answer to either. I just knew that she was really well connected in the community and had this amazing job where she was touching all sorts of different people and places and getting to talk about the best of the best within the community. And I said, I think that I want to do something like that. So fast forward to when I began college, I found that there was actually a major dedicated to tourism management and marketing. And I similarly thought, oh, I am doing this. This is where I'm going. So I marched myself into my advisor's office, said this is what I'm doing, and never looked back. That was my second semester from a year. And I wasn't I didn't hop immediately into the direct tourism and destination marketing industry after college. While I thought the event planning and all of those fun activities was going to be something I wanted to do for my career, I actually realized that I wanted to be the person attending the events, not the person working the events. And so that kind of transitioned me into my career at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I actually spent 15 years in that DMO in a variety of roles. Several years working in convention sales and services. So it really helped scratch that itch for the planning portion of the DMO experience, especially with convention services. And then obviously sales, working with meeting planners, helping them figure out the logistics for where and how and when they're going to have their meetings within our destination. And it actually was a wonderful setup to my last role within the DMO, which was Director of Marketing and Media Relations. Very glad to be working on the other side of the destination industry,
Yep.
agency side. It's really rewarding to be able to utilize a lot of the ideas that you keep in these buckets that you weren't necessarily able to use for your destination.
Yes, right. And it's so eye-opening to see the other side of the industry also, like how it all comes together. coming from the DMO side to the agency side. It's really, really exciting.
That's the value of working together, I suppose.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you found at the DMO that you worked
Oh
at?
gosh, there were several. I think that one of the biggest challenges that I always saw was just navigating complex stakeholders. Really, it was oftentimes we wouldn't hear from a lot of our partners until it was tough, until
Oh, there's something wrong.
occupation, until occupancy was down, or there was something going on within the destination that was creating some stress for our local business owners, those stakeholders. I think that that's there are more. What about you?
I think for me, the biggest challenge that consistently came up was stakeholders not really understanding what the DMO does, and not seeing our efforts because they're in market, right? So they're local. They don't see our marketing efforts on the outside. So I found that that was the biggest challenge, and we did come up with a solution where we could maybe bring some of that in market for people to see so that they feel that we are doing something. But that was the biggest challenge. You'd hear people just locally saying, "What do they do?" And it's kind of like, really, we do so much. So,
Absolutely.
so I think that was the biggest challenge for us.
The advocacy component for it was something that we
Yeah.
were really intentional about. And you're right, when I started at the DMO, advocacy wasn't something that we really talked a lot about. Like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, a convention and visitors bureau. What is
Mm,
that? It sounds very
yes.
official, very
Very
government
official.
facing. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
there was actually a point, an intentional point during my time at the DMO where we began doing business as a visit destination. So
Mm,
that for us was really what I would say a turning point because it was like that light bulb moment that went off for people. It's
hmm.
like, oh, those are the people that help bring those conventions to the community, or they
Yeah.
produce the visitor's guide. And we were lucky to have a visitor center attached to the DMO, and it was actually a designated state DMO. So, or a
Oh,
visitor center
nice.
that collected materials from destinations across the state. So
Hmm.
actually, residents would come in when they had visiting friends and family coming in looking for activities to do. They knew that it was
Hmm.
the place where they could get their state festival guide, their visitors guides for other places throughout the state, which really helped solidify kind of in their minds that uh, that's the type of service that these people do.
Right.
Obviously, it goes way beyond the visitor center scope of
Yes.
things, the DMO
Yes.
industry. But I think that it's a really important part that people often forget about, and especially from an
Hmm.
advocacy standpoint, like you said, that is something that really helps connect those dots to the
Hmm.
residents, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
positive.
And also, we found sometimes that the residents would be unhappy with us because we're bringing too many tourists to town. So it was
Absolutely,
always like, I always felt like, we can't make everyone happy, unfortunately, but that's just part of the job. So,
very true.
but with it comes so many rewards, though. I think for me, the times where I would feel so happy would be when I'm right there in the thick of it with the visitors. If I go to some local events or go to some experience just to see what it actually is that the visitors are experiencing. And just seeing the joy and the amazement on their faces, that was really rewarding to me. And then also visiting trade shows or being at a trade show booth and then having visitors literally running to our booth saying, "Oh, we love your destination. We want to come back." And it was just like a kind of like a family reunion, like, "Come back, come visit us."
It's
So that to me was the most rewarding part of it.
Oh, absolutely. That I think that you really hit on that. The rewarding parts of working in the DMO are those testimonials, so to speak, that you receive from those visitors who
Yes.
had maybe visited your website before they came into the destination. maybe even called you on your 1-800 number asking
Yeah.
about restaurant recommendations and places to go. I know I feel like I'm dating myself by saying things like this, but
No,
I guess after 20 years being in the industry, I have a lot of
same,
experience to pull from.
same.
It's I loved seeing the events coming to life, the ones that we spent a
Mm,
lot of time and attention marketing in advance, and then also bringing in journalists and influencers to cover. It was fantastic to see all of those activities come to life on screen
hmm.
after the event. I
Yes.
guess it really makes it feel like the impact we're having on a community and all of the people who live within it is just it's heartwarming, really.
I feel like a lot has evolved in the tourism industry in the last decade or so. There's been a lot of changes. I feel like in the tourism industry, there's always changes, and marketing in the marketing industry. What have you seen has changed the most, or how it's evolved? Have you seen some big noticeable changes?
There have been a lot of changes. I think most recently I've seen the DMO's involvement growing exponentially in workforce retention and
Mm,
bringing new companies to a community. That was something that I was really actually involved in as I was beginning my exit from the DMO world. And it was nice because we had the seat at the table. You know, we had
hmm.
worked really hard on advocacy component with other local stakeholders in the community, like our economic development corporations, our chambers, which oftentimes folks thought we were all just interchangeable, that we were all doing the
Mm,
exact same
yes.
thing. And it couldn't actually be farther from the truth. And so
Hmm.
that destination placemaking that was happening within the confines of the DMO space was really signaling to the EDCs and the chambers of our community that no, actually the DMO needs to be heavily involved in making sure that we're keeping folks in the community, that we are helping businesses and companies want to relocate their organizations to our community.
Right.
And people would say, well, that's not actually a visitor activity. Why are you spending time doing that? And we
Hmm.
both know that there's corporate travel that happens when new companies relocate into your town. And then also, the more people you have living in your community, the more likelihood there is for festivals to pop
Hmm.
up, for restaurants to open, for attractions to come into your community. And so it was something that we had actually really started heavily investing time, effort, and energy into. And that was kind of on the heels of COVID. And so that's one big change that I've seen. What about you? What are some things that you have seen evolve throughout the destination industry?
That for me, the biggest was COVID. Um,
Hmm.
I actually saw, as weird as it sounds, such good things come out of that whole time, that crazy time that we went through. Because I mean, even myself at that point, I was writing a lot of content for blogs and social media and things like that. And when COVID happened, I was like, how do I do this now? How do I promote coming to my destination now? And I had to really start thinking out of the box and not do any call outs as such, like come to the destination. It's more look at this beautiful scenery in our destination for maybe later when you can start planning again. Use the downtime to start planning for when you can travel again, and then also totally pivoting to trying to get visitors into the destination and looking at the locals and saying, hey, when last were you a tourist in your own destination that where you
Yeah.
live? And then show them how to safely enjoy with social distancing and all that your destination that you live in. And so we basically had to overhaul all of our content, as I'm sure you went through, all of the promotions. It was just such a learning curve for us, but also it showed us that if you just think out the box, you're a bit creative and just try to be a bit innovative. you can do it. And if we got through that, we can do any marketing after that. I mean, come on. So,
But there are a
um,
lot of positive things that came out of COVID, and the
yeah.
pandemic for the destination industry. And I know that I'm going to bring up one more, and I think that this one is a little bit of a touchy subject, but the crazy rise of vacation rentals
Oh,
has
yes.
also been something. I guess that's kind of like an answer to a twofold question. What have you seen as a change in the industry that's happened? And then what's a potential drawback or an opportunity for something that's happening in a destination? And I can say without a doubt that the rise of vacation rentals is the answer for all three of those questions.
Right. Right.
um,
Our destination ran out of licenses very fast, and there was a long waiting list for that kind of vacation
yes.
rentals. I'm sorry. So it definitely did show what other potential accommodation there is available as well. So yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. So our community never had licenses for them, and so
Oh,
it's
okay.
been an exponential growth.
Oh,
I believe that when I left the DMO a couple years ago, we were at about 500 vacation rentals within the destination. And so obviously not all of them
gosh.
are on market 24/7, but it it was another one of those ways that helped us through COVID because we had, like I mentioned earlier, some really fantastic outdoor assets. And
Hmm.
there were these amazing cabins and chalets and all sorts of different places sprinkled around the lake, throughout the forested areas that people absolutely wanted to take advantage of. So
Hmm.
those have only continued to pop up or come on market. And because of a law that was passed in 2019 at the state level where I'm at, we were collecting the innkeeper's tax at the time of
Hmm.
booking at the vacation rentals. And people are like, wow, why are you talking about taxes? Well, that was the single source of funding for my destination, was that hotel
Yes.
occupancy tax. And so
Yes.
when that started getting collected from the vacation rentals, all of a sudden the revenue that we had, or the money that we had access to continue marketing the
Hmm.
destination just exploded. And so it
Yep.
was we were able to continue doing all of the amazing marketing efforts that we were already doing, but we were also starting to be able to nurture some seed money for of festivals and events, things like that, and that was a really positive benefit of the vacation rental. National Travel and Tourism Week is a time for us to be celebrating not only the
Right.
people that make this industry fantastic, but all of the things and all of the businesses and all of the hotels and all of the properties, so to speak, that
Hmm.
make that whole tourism ecosystem work. And
Yeah.
it's really it's a week of celebration, but it can also be a week of reflection on how
Hmm.
far we've come. And
Right.
it's important to recognize and celebrate those moments.
And to celebrate the visitors who make it all work in the end, right? Who
Yes.
actually come to the destination and after maybe taking some chances in marketing that you're afraid to take, but you go ahead and try it anyway, and then you see this big surge of visitors. It's always like so exciting. So it's just a celebration of all the efforts that go into tourism. Um, and
Absolutely.
for me, the success of a DMO, like how I would see the success of a DMO is maybe staying ahead of the trends or staying ahead and making sure that you know of all the trends that are coming up, um, because they're forever changing. I feel like in marketing and tourism, it's like a double-edged sword. It's always changing and adapting to challenges like we did. Um, that to me is the success. What would you see as a success?
Yeah, gosh, there are so many. I would say also, success is far more than those lodging occupancy numbers, and that,
Hmm.
um, all of the data that goes into it that we can sometimes get ourselves wrapped up in. I think that like we were talking earlier, the success comes through when you get those positive emails or the
Yes.
comments on your social media account saying, it was the best vacation I've taken, or I got
Mhm.
engaged during this trip,
Yes.
or
I love that.
things like that. It's those personal moments and the connections um, in humanity, honestly, that make
Mhm.
what we do in destination marketing so heartwarming. Again, I keep coming
Mhm.
back to that word because I just feel so grateful, especially during moments like these, to just take a moment to pause and reflect and celebrate. It really is enjoyable, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else in the
I was just
industry.
thinking that. I was just thinking that I don't know how I landed up doing all this,
I
but I'm
know.
so happy with it all because it's been such an experience. I've actually seen a lot because of the industry that I'm in too. I mean, you have to experience it in order to sell it, right? Or to promote it. So
Yes.
when I was in South Africa, I got to do a lot of safari tours and things like that, that I would never
That's
have if I wasn't in the industry. So it's
right.
been a very fulfilling, exciting, rewarding industry to be in. And so I'll definitely be celebrating.
No, absolutely. I've often said that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to see as much of the United States as I have during
Yes.
my career had I not been in the destination industry. And it's really the power of meetings and the travel of face-to-face connections. I've witnessed it firsthand as an attendee at conferences and events, as an
Mhm.
exhibitor. It's funny how being in the industry creates the full circle industry moments.
Being in the industry and going to conferences and where you get to meet your peers and see what other destinations are doing. And you kind of have an outside family, reunions when you go to these conferences too. So,
You really do. And because I
yeah.
think that one of the things that binds us together more than anything is that, and maybe I'm sure I'm not alone in when I say this. My friends and family have no idea what I do in destination marketing.
Yes,
Right? They're like, "Well, I
yes,
know like you're promoting and you're helping bring visitors, but like, what exactly is it
you,
that you do?" And to be able to
right.
have the camaraderie with the same people in
Hmm.
one space where you don't have to explain like what is a DMO.
Right.
It really helps and makes those moments of gathering even more special.
For sure. It definitely does. It's like a I get you moment.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you go through. I understand you. I know your life.
exactly. I live in an interesting space because I live in a large college town, and so I'm on the forefront, speaking in classes to tourism and marketing students, and I think that there are a lot of skills that they're needing to bring to the table to be valuable for future employment. And I
Mhm.
actually wrote my CDME paper on some of these topics.
Oh,
And from the skills standpoint, I think that all of the things that we think of when we're looking for a well-rounded employee, someone who pays attention to detail, has
mhm.
go get them mentality, drive, initiative, and charisma are the two or three things that I always talk about students
Yeah.
needing when they're looking
Yes.
for their first real job. But I think that we would be remiss to not mention AI. Obviously, it's the
Hmm.
buzzword happening right now, and similarly, 15 years ago now, I saw a lot of similarities with the rise of social media. But I think that AI has the ability to impact. Well, not has the ability, is going to significantly impact the destination industry and the visitor industry significantly, not only from a consumer standpoint, but from an employment standpoint. And so we need to be making sure that we're investing from a destination, from a DMO perspective, that we're investing in the materials that our teams need to be knowledgeable in the AI space, getting all of the tools at their desktops, so to speak, that they'll need to make that happen. But then also investing in it from like a website perspective, where we know that already just in 2 short years, the way that search is happening for destination information is dramatically shifting from SEO and keyword research to AI summaries, and that I can't even imagine what it's going to look like at the end of the year, let alone the end of 2 years from now. So making sure that those skills are at the forefront of the minds of the folks who are getting ready to enter into the industry, I think is something that's really important right now. And I think that part of the conversation would we would be remiss to not talk about being able to pay it forward for the students and the younger generations that are entering into the industry. I think it's really important for us to be nurturing those relationships because as someone who's been in the industry for 20 years, I don't think that I would have been here had I not had these pivotal relationships and mentorships come in at the beginning of my career. And I think that that's probably one of the reasons why I am so passionate about paying it forward to the next generation and making sure that I am making space, making time to engage with younger professionals. I have the opportunity with my role now to interface with a lot of young professionals and making sure that I have the time to introduce them to a couple folks who I've known for a really long time that are friends in the industry, just as a way to build their professional networks and get them comfortable in the industry. Because as we all know, it can be very scary to be in a new place without knowing anyone, and everyone is older than
Absolutely.
you, and
Yes.
knows everything, and we all know that we don't know everything. But when you're starting out in your career, you're looking to everyone thinking like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to
Yes.
be like somebody like that? How am I ever going to learn all of this stuff? And we all have to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
so the more comfortable we can make those folks feel at the beginning of of their career in this industry, the more likely we are to be able to keep them. And I think that that's something
Correct.
that I want to make sure that we have enough people in the industry to keep it
Hmm.
thriving. And the
Yes.
youth have so many amazing ideas. There's so much
Creative.
creative and on the
Mhm.
cusp of or thinking about all of the environmental implications and
Hmm.
accessibility
Yes,
and
that's true.
inclusiveness, and so
Yes.
I want to make sure that when they're here early on that we're nurturing those relationships so that we're keeping them and that they're staying.
Yes, I agree. I definitely found that working with younger people in at my DMO, they kept me on trend. I didn't really know what they were talking about when it came to certain TikTok things, or I'm like, what is that? Explain it to
Yes.
me. So it's always good to have them around for that.
Yeah.
And it's great to see their passion for the industry. But
Yeah, I just couldn't be more grateful,
mhm.
to celebrate another National Travel and Tourism Week. I was thinking about this earlier. It's my 19th one,
Oh
which
wow,
is really
awesome.
crazy to think about. But I'm excited to see what happens in the next year before my 20th. So I'm
Yeah, there
looking
you
forward.
go. This is the first one for me at an agency and not at a DMO, so it's definitely different. Usually we'd be preparing for some sort of event for our stakeholders, and it'll be very busy. But it's a nice way to experience the other side of it and still celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in my mind, I guess I don't really. I don't really divide it because the agency work that we're doing is very much destination focused. In my heart
Mm.
of hearts, I'm still a DMO girl. Like, and I
Oh
think I
yeah,
always will be. And
same.
so and I think that that's one of the biggest values that we bring to the relationships we have now with our clients who used to be our
Hmm.
colleagues. Um,
Yeah.
it's all interchangeable at this point. I think
Hmm.
that because
At
we're
least
all work.
we can
Yeah.
empathize, I think, as well,
Yes.
is that I think that is the biggest thing. When I speak to DMOs now, I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice for them to feel heard and that
Yes.
somebody understands what they're going through.
Yes. And they can talk in all of the acronyms that they want because we
Yes,
understand each of them. The alphabet soup is alive and well when they're
yes,
talking with us.
yes. I'm still learning the agency acronyms, but I still know the DMO ones.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it.